sharing. Okay, can everyone see the screen?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hello, my name is Rebecca Adcock. I would like to introduce you to our online tutorial, Building Your Family Tree. Our tutorial today will be led by Kelly Fay, Danielle Hall, and Sally Carey. Next slide. Our hope is that with this tutorial, all audiences that are interested in learning about their family tree will be able to have a better understanding of how to use these tools to access that information. Most of these resources are available to all audiences, but older audiences may find it easier to navigate. By the end of this tutorial, we hope that you have a better understanding of how to use Ancestry, newspapers, and find a grave. Next slide.
So I would like to walk you through how to get started using Ancestry.com. Ancestry.com is a website, it's a genealogy website which allows you to start building a family tree. It gives you access to many, many resources, including census records, marriage and death and birth certificates, and military certificates. It does require a membership, with a basic membership costing $19.99 per month. Although as we go on in this tutorial, we will give you some suggestions for ways that you may access Ancestry.com for free through various local libraries and other methods as well. Next slide, please. So getting started with Ancestry is pretty simple. If you know just a name of any family member, whether it be your father or mother or a grandparent, you can go ahead and input that information into a simple search. That being said, the more information you know about the person, the better your search results are going to be. So for example, if you know the spouse of a grandparent or the location where they were born or the year that they were born, you will be able to yield better results. So as you see on the screen, you've got the basic search tool and then the results page that are yielded when you input the information about whoever it is that you're trying to look up. Next slide, please. So one of the most useful tools in helping get started using Ancestry is the access it gives you to federal census records, because not only will it enable you to find information about the person that you are looking for, oftentimes then it will also give you information about everyone who was living in their household at the time, which will usually include other family members, and will also give you information as to how old those family members were at the time of the census, which then will allow you to know the years that they were born, and then perhaps give you ways to expand your search after that. Next slide. Another great resource that's available through Ancestry is access to city directories. Again, this is a result that will be yielded after just doing a basic search. And the results that Ancestry brings up oftentimes will highlight the individual to whom you're looking for. And as you can see, although it's a little bit small on this page, not only did it show me my great-grandmother, it also brought up my great-grandfather and told me his occupation at the time that this directory was issued, which is interesting considering I never knew he worked as a janitor at any point in his life. Next slide. Other resources that are available through Ancestry, and again, this is not to be meant to be totally expansive of everything that's available, but these are just some of the ones that are available for many, many people, are Social Security Index records, as well as then state, county, and city census records, as well as death certificates. Next slide. Another great feature of Ancestry is it does allow you to link in with other family trees who have been started by members who have also looked for the same ancestors that you're looking for. As long as they have made that research information public, you can link in with their family trees and then be able to access information that you might not have found on your own, or you may not have had access to begin with, such as family photos. And it's a great way to find family photos and other little family histories that may not be public records, such as census records and military records and the like, but are just part of family histories. Next slide, please.
All right, so I'm now going to talk about newspapers.com. Newspapers.com is basically a database where there are hundreds of thousands of digital newspapers that can go all the way back to the 1800s. On this page, this is the main screen that pops up when you type in www.newspapers.com. Please. So how can we access newspapers.com? There are actually two ways. The first way is that you can just go to their newspapers.com website and you can subscribe. The only problem with doing a subscription is that it can be kind of pricey. For example, if you do the extra one where you can basically see anything and everything, it will be almost $75 for 6 months. So that would roughly be a little under $20 a month. But if you just want the basic newspapers.com, where you could potentially run into a few roadblocks with possibly not seeing everything that you want, it is about $45 a month for 6 months, and which would be about $8 a month. Like me, I try not to spend money if I can help it. So there is another way that you can view newspapers.com for free, and that is going to be on the next slide. Okay, so some institutions have relationships with newspapers.com. For instance, the Kansas Historical Society, they actually have an agreement that KSHS will send them newspapers. They will digitize it, but they also have to let Kansas residents view these newspapers for free. So they have an on-site website where you actually have to go to the Historical Society, sit down at one of their computers, and you can basically look up anything under the moon. You can look up newspapers in Texas. Obviously, there's going to be more in Kansas than like that you're going to be looking up than other states. But there's also another way if you don't live in Kansas or you live too far away from the Historical Society that you can get on newspapers.com. Next slide, please. And that is with the Kansas Historical Society's resident access. What this is if you click on the portal on the left side of the screen that says resident access, it'll take you to this this form where you would enter your first and last name, driver's license, and then your date of birth. This is basically so they know that you're actually a Kansas resident and not from Missouri or Oklahoma or anywhere like that. Next slide, please. Okay, so once you are able to access newspapers.com, it becomes an incredible tool. You simply just would browse. You can just browse newspapers, type in the title, or if you don't really know what you're looking for, it's really easy to click a state and then it'll take you to a city that you want. And then you can, if you know what newspaper you want, you can just pick that newspaper. But if you don't know the exact name of the newspaper, if you look on the right side of the screen, I typed in Artser, which is my mom's maiden name, and it came up with 371 matches in newspapers all over Kansas. And if I really wanted to, I can dwindle it down to 1893 or as late as 1986. Next slide, please. After you find what you want, I did an example. I kind of went off of my family information and started looking up Amelia Earhart. On the left side of the screen in the corner, there is a clipping that is about her family home. And so this is cool because it shows that you find an article you want, you simply just clip it or crop it. And once you've done that, you can email it to yourself, you can share it on Facebook or Twitter, and you can actually send it to your Ancestry account so that when you pull up Ancestry, you have clippings, you have news stories, anything that you really want to help you build on your family history. Next slide.
All right, so another really good place to use to build your family tree is using Find a Grave. So to access Find a Grave, you just go to findagrave.com and it'll bring you to this page here. It's really, really easy to use, and another good thing about it is that it's free. You just need to really know the last name of whoever you're looking up, but that of course will bring up a ton of results. So there's a lot of other things you can do to narrow that down. For instance, I did my great grandma. So I put her first name Ruth, and then her last name Tulloch. And that's all I did, but other things that you can do, for instance, if you know the year they were born, the year they died, or where they were buried, that can help narrow it down a lot. Another thing you can do is there's all these options down here. Another helpful one is if you don't know their last name when they were married, you can do their maiden name. Maybe if they weren't buried in a cemetery, or if they were famous, or if they don't have a grave photo. You can see who left flowers. So that's can help. So when I just typed in Ruth Tulloch, it gave me 12 records. So luckily I knew where she was buried. So I knew that it was the second one, Ruth Tadakin. So if I wanted to narrow that down in the first place, I could have put in the cemetery where she was born. You can see that the Tadakin is in italics. So whenever it's italicized, that is the maiden name. And if it wasn't italicized, then that would have been just the middle name. So once I click on Ruth Tadakin Tulloch, it brings me to this page here. Most of the photos are just gravestones, but sometimes you get really cool pictures and you can add photos and all kinds of things. So the information that this page brings up, you can see birth and not only when they were born, but where they were born, if the information is available. You can see obviously when they died, but also where they died, and then where they were buried. And then down at the bottom is my favorite part, and it just has, sometimes it has information, and other times it just has family members. You can see parents, spouse, children. Of course, this may seem obvious, but the people have to actually be dead or they will not be listed on here. For instance, I was wondering when I clicked on, you can see children, it says Donald C. Tulloch. And when I clicked on him, it didn't show my mom, and I was like, oh, why is my mom not listed? But it's because she is still alive, so of course she wouldn't be on here. Another thing, if they were cremated, sometimes they may not be on here. My mom's mom isn't on here because she was cremated. And then if you click on the parents, you can trace the family tree back and back and back. This is as far back as I got, was 1736. And usually when you go back farther, it gives you even more information, which I thought was interesting. You can see on Benoni Powers that he was adopted, and then John Powers it shows like his occupation, and a lot of times it says when they immigrated over, if they were from somewhere else, or like it even sometimes goes into specifics as to like the ship they were on and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. Another cool thing that you can do on Find a Grave is there's the Explore More page. Most of these things you need, you can see that it's sponsored by Ancestry. So most of these things you need a Ancestry account to access, such as the newspapers, the military records, and like DNA tests and stuff. But one cool thing that you can do for free on Find a Grave is learning more about your family name. So some cool things. The first, where is your family from? It shows where they're from at 1840, and you can use that bar at the bottom and scroll through, and it'll show where the family has migrated throughout time. You can also see the average lifespan. As you can see, the Tullocks were not doing so great. They were below average for a while, but then looks like they're getting better, and then they got worse again. And then you can also see what they did for a living at the time. So it looked like Tullocks were mostly farmers. But another thing you can do is you can see if you were related to famous people, but you need an ancestry account for that. But yeah, using Find a Grave is really cool and really fun. I spent all day on it, and it's a really good way to build your family tree. And that is all I have. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.